Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads, and it is time to finish out my Advent Calendar Prompt Ball Reading Challenge. It is the final week before Christmas, and I have been doing a prompt per day every day leading up to the holiday. My Advent calendar actually goes through day 25. Pretty sure I've called this challenge something different every vlog, potentially. So maybe by next year I need to figure out what I'm actually calling this. If you hear sniffing, I took Kylie's ball away, and she's excited about that, clearly. I have been doing this Advent challenge basically for the last several years on my channel. This is the first year I've used Prompt Ball to actually pick the prompts, and I'm having a ton of fun with it. If you missed my December TBR, the idea with this is I pulled initially, I think it was about 10 of the prompts during the creation of my TBR, picked books for them, although I've changed the books for some, and put those into my Advent calendar. I then pulled the remaining prompts, put those in as well. So some of the prompts I already know are coming, some are complete surprises and have to pick a book in the moment. I don't necessarily have to finish the book that day, but the idea is to keep things relatively on track. Shockingly, to me, more than anyone, I am actually fully up to date. I've been keeping relatively up to date. I've had a few books that take a couple days to read, but a couple I can read within the day, and it all balances out. So that is going well. The other thing I am doing in the space of this vlog is trying to finish my blackout bingo board for G at Book Gross Lightfall event, which is the cozy winter holiday event for the Aurelium Magical Readathon. And that is a readathon I look forward to every year. I'm already looking forward to the 2026 version, so it's fun to be able to participate. My ideal would be to try to match some of my prompt balls here and the books I pick to some of those prompts. It hasn't been working the best so far, but I am kind of providing a little bit of an update as I go because we still have a few more days left in Lightfall. And I started reading for it in the last vlog that I did for this challenge, which of course will already be up. This one, I am hoping to finish that out. Honestly, I haven't even looked at the non-reading prompts since the announcement video, so I need to be looking at that as well to see how I'm doing. But without further ado, I think it is time to pull the prompt for today. It is the 18th, which means we are well on our way to the final days leading up to Christmas. So let's find out. Okay, well, we already had one of these. We got another one. I'm getting a lot of duplicates this time around, and that is for an emoji pull pick. So I need to pick out some books and throw them into an emoji pull pick. This would be a good time to put in some of the books that I need to read for either Buddy Reads or for Lightfall. So I'm gonna figure out what that is. I'll let you know what books I threw in when I come back to provide you with an update. But for now, emoji pull it is. Happy Friday. I am very glad it's Friday. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Although today is going to be super busy because of course I have to go to work. That's the bummer of life. But after work, I'm going out to dinner with a couple of friends. It's one of their 50th birthday this week. So we are going out to dinner tonight to celebrate that. I have my Christmas breakfast with my cousin's family in the morning at 9 a.m. And that means I need to leave the house like by 8:15 or so. And I still need to wrap several gifts for that. So that's on tonight's agenda. And in theory, work on my Advent calendar blanket, which I have a feeling this is going to be the day I fall behind on that because it is definitely possible that I'll get home late and definitely possible that the wrapping and everything else will take some time. Last night, I'm really happy with how it turned out. We crocheted some tulip rows, but I was so tired and it definitely was one of the longer nights of crocheting for some reason. It just felt like it was taking forever. I'm hoping tonight's is easier and maybe I can get to it. We'll see. If not, it's the weekend and in theory I should be able to catch up. I don't have any definitive plans for this weekend. Hopefully spending some fun time, and definitely need to film my TBR for January, maybe something else. I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling, but the real reason we are here is to talk about the fact that I am about 60%, I think it is, into One Small Mistake, and I'm enjoying my time with it. It is entertaining. We are following Elodie at the beginning of the book, and she is an aspiring author, but things haven't been going great. She quit her full-time job in marketing, goodbye puppy, and she wanted to pursue writing. She's working at a coffee shop a little bit. She's doing that to make ends meet, but really putting her time and her passion into writing. And she's been getting a lot of rejection. She's down to her last kind of hope, and she has a meeting with her editor. It does not go as she would have liked, but a meeting with a friend after that leaves the impression that she got a book deal. And she makes a mistake, and it's one of those things that just snowballs out of control. Everyone soon thinks she has a book deal, and she's stressing out about life. Her parents are very much in support of her sister and her sister's life choices, and really frustrated kind of with her choices in life and her giving up her really good marketing job for this writing thing. And so suddenly it seems like this is something that might make them proud, and she really doesn't want to tell them it's not true. All this goes on, and then there's also the fact that somebody's been following her. There's also the fact that potentially she goes missing. There's some interesting twists and turns that happen there. Eventually we start following her sister Ada as well, and they have a little bit of a contentious relationship. Ada has kind of this picture perfect life where she found a husband, the husband has money, she lives in this nice home, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes related to herself, her marriage, her feelings about her husband, her feelings about becoming a mother, and there are definitely some heavy-hitting topics going on with her as well. The synopsis makes it sound like the sisters are more at odds than they are. There definitely are moments between them, but the sister really is concerned about the fact that Elodie's missing. Her narrative, a lot of it is directed to the sister. Like she says, you remember when this happened? Like she's talking to her missing sister, and I find that a really interesting narrative device. I am finding this a little bit longer than I expected. I thought the book was almost wrapping up when we got to a certain point, and I looked down at it and it was only at like 57% or so. So I'm really curious to see where this winds up going. There is some definitely triggering content on page. There's a sexual assault that is on page. There are some definite talks around kind of pregnancy and fertility and those types of things. So do look up trigger warnings if those might be of concern. But I am very interested in continuing on with this one. I realized I completely blew over the fact that this was an emoji poll pick, and I didn't talk about what was in my poll, but the books that I put in were much more strategic this time. I put in The Night Before Christmas because I do need to read that one this weekend. I put in Unaccustomed Earth short stories, which I did wind up actually finishing last night anyway. I put in this book, obviously, and then I put in The Poet Empress, which is another arc that I have coming out at the end of January. This particular book just recently came out, or it came out. Kensington's edition came out at the end of November, so I have a gifted e-arc from them for that. So I am enjoying my time with this one. In my polls, actually, this one was in the lead pretty consistently, and then I forgot to like grab the image of it winning, and then when I went to go look last night, it wound up tied with The Night Before Christmas, and I'm reading that this weekend anyway, but I swear this one was the winner at the time I actually started reading. So anyway, that's where we're at. And as I mentioned, I did finish Unaccustomed Earth by Jhumpa Lahiri. This is the short story collection. I actually started it in the last vlog. It's the one that I'm using as a white-ish cover for Lightfall, and I really had a fantastic time with most of these stories. There were a few that I didn't connect with as well, or I wound up feeling like at the end it didn't quite go as far as I wanted to kind of wrap up the ending, but the relationships in here, you definitely got invested. The characters as well, I think she writes really fantastic dynamics between people and strained relationships and all of that going on, and I think it just winds up in a kind of bittersweet way for a lot of these stories that I really appreciated. So that one's getting a 4.5 from me, and that is it. Sorry, my update this morning is extremely chaotic. Clearly I need to be drinking coffee before I do updates. I probably maybe will update you tomorrow before I have to leave for my Christmas breakfast, or you might get a late update from me tomorrow. I'm not sure. We'll see, because leaving the house that early on a Saturday means that I don't know how things are going to be looking. So in any case, we do need to know what today's prompt is to know what I'm working on next. Oh, I know what this one is, because there's a whole lot of paper in here. So to unpack this, this was the one that I got during my Prompt Ball TBR game, and it was to pick two and either combine them or read two books. And the prompts that I got were for a book from my Nightworms subscription and a novella. And the book that I wound up picking for this one is the most recent one I had received at the time, and that is Demon Song by Kelsey Yu. And I don't know a whole lot about this one, but it came from my Nightworm subscription. It's a nice short novella, and I did discover that Hoopla has the audio. We have a nice little signature plate from Nightworms in here as well. and also a art plate inspired by the novel. The story in here is that Megan and her mom are on the run after escaping an abusive man. The mom turns to a friend who offers them room and board in a opera theater in exchange for cleaning the ancient building. And I think there's a little something weird and unsettling about this particular opera building. So I am very excited for this one. It's nice and short. Should mean I should be able to finish this and finish up One Small Mistake by tomorrow so I can be caught up. So we'll see. Hopefully then I can pull a prompt on my way out the door in the morning and find out what I can be listening to on the way to and from my Christmas breakfast. So I will check in with you later. For now, I'm going to go open my yarn advents and get some coffee because I really need the coffee. It is Saturday morning. I am dragging. I didn't get home until late last night. Went out for a friend's birthday, had dinner, caught up a little bit. It was a lovely evening, and then I had to come home, wrap Christmas gifts, worked on my crochet blanket again, and can confirm I'm finally behind. It got to be after midnight, and I still had a row and a half to do, and I was exhausted. So I finally just gave up. I was obviously not getting it done on the 19th anyway. So today I have the 20th and a little bit left of the 19th to go on my crocheting. But that's okay. This morning, I'm up early because we have breakfast with some extended family this morning for our little mini pre-Christmas celebration. And then after that, my time is kind of my own. I have a complication in that the power company is doing some maintenance in my area, and they've basically said to plan on the power being out from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I'm leaving the house this morning before 9 a.m. So I anticipate when I get back that there will be no power, no Christmas lights, no light to crochet well with or read well with, or who knows. So we'll see. By the time I get home, I'm anticipating I won't get home until closer to noon. I'm maybe going to run a couple errands while I'm out and about. I'll see what's in the neighborhood of the restaurant we're going to and go from there. But in the meantime, I do have some reading updates for you. First off, I finished up One Small Mistake, and overall I enjoyed myself with this one. It definitely had some tension-packed moments. It had some twists to the story. There was one thing that I wanted an answer on that I don't think we got like an actual answer on. It gets addressed in the book, and it's a theory I had from the very beginning, and eventually it becomes a theory that characters have, but I don't know that we actually got to the point where we got a definitive proof type of answer. But the story itself did take some turns that I expected, some I did not. It definitely goes into some darker places, and overall this is my second book by this particular author, and I have come to expect kind of those darknesses and trigger warning content from her. So overall, I had a really good time with this one, 3.5, and glad that I had the opportunity to pick this one up. Thank you to Kensington for that. The other book that I read was Demon Song, and this is the one that got me crocheting last night and trying to brush and catch up on my blanket. And even though the blanket itself failed, I did finish this up. We are following this young woman, and she and her mom have been running away from an abusive relationship, so trigger warnings definitely in here for that. And they wind up going to stay in this opera house. And there is something a little bit interesting happening there. Not exactly a haunting, but there is a demon present. I think that's not a spoiler given the title of this. It was different than I expected. I expected it to maybe be more of a haunted, abandoned type of opera, and it wasn't that so much. There were other people staying there. There were a lot of people staying there, and it's, I think, a different kind of cultural setting than what I was picturing in my head, purely going blindly into that. So that's on me, not the book. I found that discussions about the opera and about the storytelling of it and everything to be very interesting. The author's note at the end, she mentions going to see Phantom of the Opera and building a lifelong love for that particular story, and this kind of being a love story to that. And I definitely picked up on those vibes as I was reading it. We get some kind of gothic-y feels in here. I wouldn't say for me it went super the way I thought. Like, it didn't go super horror-y. The more horror is the human element almost, if that makes sense. But I had a good time with it. Giving it 3.5. I don't have a ton more thoughts on it. It just kind of was a book I was vibing to as I was reading. So yeah, that one is done as well, which means that I am fully caught up. I should also mention I did read The Night Before Christmas by Nikolai Gogol. Not really what I expected from it. A lot of devil talk for a Christmas, quote unquote, Christmas story. But it's a classic. I've now read it. It was okay. It's not one that's going to stick in my memory long term. So with that, I'm actually doing pretty well on my Lightfall reading in general. I've hit most of the prompts that I need to, and that's a good thing. I think there's one more that I need, and I can actually use one small mistake for a couple different potential prompts. So really the two that I could still stand a book to go into is a standalone, which is usually pretty easy, or a book between pages 300 and 400, because either one of those I can use the book I just finished, and whatever book I pick next that hopefully I finish before the end of the weekend will satisfy the other one. I don't think I'm going to worry about hitting blackout on all the non-reading prompts because I just don't have the energy to focus in on that, but I will then have hit all of the reading prompts if I can make that work. So let's see what our prompt for today is. I can't believe it's the 20th. That's just wild. Okay, I know exactly which book this is. This is one we had from Prompt Ball, TBR Game, at the beginning of the month. And that is a book connected to the Don't Rate Me song. So what I did with this one is went with the drink with jam and bread line in the song. And you need coffee if you're having jam and bread. So the book that I'm going to be reading for this one is a gifted copy I received from NetGalley, and it is The Naysayers. And there are obviously 2 cups of coffee on the cover. So I think this one is perfect. I actually have started this one just a bit. I'm 10% in. And we're following a young woman as she's applying to work to be a whisperer. And what a whisperer does is whispers into people's minds when they are feeling insecure, when they are feeling like they don't have any worth or value. A naysayer whisperer will come in their ear and kind of encourage that feeling. It's a magical realism. It's a really interesting kind of look at things. The main character we're following, her grandmother was part of this agency. Her mother was part of this agency. Her grandmother was in charge of this agency. Her mother now is taking the reins, so she is a legacy to this world, and gung-ho has been trained from an early age to go into it. There's a lot of little things that just make it feel like a corporate setting while being obviously something very fantastical. There's kind of training that people go to. If they show empathy towards anyone or anything, they get written up for that. There's just a lot of fun going on with this, and these authors are people who just are fun to follow on social media. I've really enjoyed their books in the past. This one feels very different compared to what I've read from them before, but I'm having a fantastic time with it. And I just got gifted the audiobook for this as well, so it's perfect since I do need something while I'm driving around today. And I'm going to breakfast where I will be having coffee, so it does seem to fit the vibe of the morning. Not that I don't have coffee most mornings, given that I have one sitting right here with me. So with that, I am going to pack up, get my stuff together, and start working on heading down to meet my family. So I'll go ahead and leave you here. Hello again. Come on. We have a puppy observing us and deciding if she wants to join us. She's decided yes. Anyway, it is Sunday morning. I am struggling a little bit. I've been coughing a lot, which is really annoying. It's an allergy thing. It's something that I was dealing with last month, and then it finally was almost gone. And then I think I've just been socializing too much and being out in the air too much or something. I don't know. There is an air quality alert going on, so that could be part of it. In any case, I am dragging a little bit this morning. I did have to film my TBR video, which was a lot of talking, so it'll be fun editing the coughing out there, but you don't care about that, so let's move on. I did finish up my book from yesterday, The Naysayers by Liz Fenton and Lisa Stenke, and this is one that I had the gifted audiobook from Brilliant Audio, so even as I wasn't really wanting to sit and focus on a screen, I could listen to the audiobook, and while I was driving around and all. I had a lovely breakfast with my cousins. We went to a place that had a lot of different eggs Benedict. The one that I got was like a Parmesan crusted English muffin with tomato, a poached egg, and then like a cheddar hollandaise sauce over top. It was so good. It was really, truly so good. And then we went back to my cousin's house, exchanged gifts, hung out for a little while, and then I wound up making my way home. I had grand plans of going out and doing some shopping and errand running and the like, and that did not happen. So that's okay. I've only got a couple of things that I need before the holiday, and hopefully I can get some of that done during my work day with the local shops. So that's the plan for that. So it was a considerable amount of time in the car, and on the way home I did pick up a few things from a local Asian bakery, so I will probably be getting myself some coffee pretty soon now and enjoying that. But in the meantime, I need to know what I am reading. Grumble. No falling. No falling. Okay, well, I don't know if it's going to focus, but this is to read one of my 25 and 25 books. But here's the thing, I've actually finished my 25 and 25 books. So we're going to call this a free pick. A reward for having finished the challenge is that when this prompt comes up, I automatically get to do whatever I want. That sounds fair, right? A reward, sure. I was thinking about it because one of my other challenges did come up in my TBR for January, for that. But it did cross my mind during that. What if I had pulled this after I finished this challenge? I had not finished this challenge, but I think that's fair. If you you've already finished the challenge, actually I don't need to put this back in because 25 and 25 is not going to be a thing in the game for next year. I think I get the reward of choosing something that's on my TBR that helps me out maybe, but whatever I want. So that's what we're going to do. And I think I know what I'm going to pick. Okay, I think I'm going to do a lazy day today. I'm going to have my coffee. I'm going to have a sweet. I'm going to catch up on my crochet blanket. The Advent blanket, I'm pretty sure I told you I fell behind 2 nights ago because of being out and so forth. I did in fact catch up on it yesterday, so I'm excited about that. Today's crocheting is actually a really simple couple of rows, and it suggested catching up on weaving and ends, which I'm not doing too badly on the end weaving, so I don't think that should take me too long. But in the meantime, I think what I'm going to read is Brandon Sanderson's Tailored Realities. These are, I believe, stories that lean more sci-fi for him, and I think there's one from the Skyward world. There's one that ties to some of his other series that I haven't read yet, and there's also some new standalone short stories. I mean, Sanderson doesn't really write short, so I don't know how short they are, but this is something that I would like to get started on and kind of get to reading a few things here and there. And then while I'm at it, I'll probably pop on an audiobook for maybe an arc or something today. I don't know. I may just wind up crashing out in front of the TV because I'm annoyed about the whole chest congestion thing. So we'll see, but that is the plan. And I will go from there and let you know how the collection is going in general when I check in with you next. Good morning. I have been joined by Monster again. He is our filming toy apparently. And it is Monday the 22nd. Have my coffee. I really need it. I did not successfully read much yesterday. I spent a good portion of the day in bed watching TV, got up for a while, watched TV with other people for a watch along, and it just was one of those days. I have this cough. It's been really annoying me. And I think the fact that I went out Friday night and then was out and being social Saturday morning as well just wiped me out. And the cough took hold, and we'll see how the week goes. I'm really not wanting to be sick for Christmas, so I'm hoping that taking a bunch of hot liquids with me today to work will help on that score. So I'm going to put Monster away over here. Kylie's being very attentive from the couch, and let you know that I did read a little bit yesterday. And the reading that I did do yesterday is in Tailored Realities by Brandon Sanderson, and I am having an absolutely fantastic time with this. It's not the book's fault that I didn't read more. I just didn't have the energy to stay sitting upright longer. But I received this gifted art copy from Tor, and it came not too far before it actually came out. So I didn't get to it as an arc. So I did wind up using a credit from Libro.fm to pick up the audiobook for this one because the audio is really well done. It has a different narrator for each story. I don't know, there could be some duplicate, but there's a bunch of different narrators attached. There are in here with each story illustrations. And I really appreciate that the audiobook gives a illustration description at the start of each story. So if you're purely reading this on audio, you still get kind of the impact of what the illustration is and before you launch into the story. And then each story also has a postscript from Brandon Sanderson talking about the story, the origin of the story, where it was published, if it had been previously published, and so forth. There are some stories in here that are quite long. There are some that are really quick. There's one that's his attempt at flash fiction, which means I think it was just like a page or two and it was over in a flash. So I think he does do better with the longer stories in my personal opinion, and I think he kind of indicated he agreed, but I really am having a good time. The first story in here, which really drew me in immediately, it is set in a world that has developed the technology where you can kind of go into a mirror image of the past, a duplication of the past. It's not a reality. It ends when you turn off the simulation, but you can send detectives back into this moment in time to investigate crimes and gather information, look for witnesses, wander around the world and just see things and do things. And we are following a couple of imperfect detectives who are on a task there, who go off task, see some other things. And I thought that story was so fascinating, and the way it ends was interesting. And that set the tone for this collection. One of my goals of 2025 was to read more short stories. I was trying to do one collection a month, and I got a little bit maybe burned out with that. I realized maybe that's a little bit too many short stories for me to almost practically be reading them every day. So I hadn't wound up committing to a collection for this particular last month of the year, but I'm glad that kind of this wound up getting to fit into something and that I am reading it, because I am reminded here how much I really can enjoy short story collections. So I'm about 200 or so pages into this one, nearly at the halfway point. There's only, I think, 3 stories left. So I think I've got 3 kind of novella novella length stories to go, Firstborn, Mitosis, and Moment Zero. And they are definitely on the longer end. So I am looking forward to diving back in here today and have high hopes that this is on trajectory to actually be a 5-star collection, which is not often the case with short story collections. Usually there's a couple stories that are 5-star and then some that definitely aren't, and it brings the overall average down. But like I said, fantastic time so far. Okay, puppy, can you hold on? Because it is time to figure out what our prompt is for today. Yes, it is. Oh. Nope. Okay, a TBR vet, so something that's been on my shelf for a while. I definitely don't lack options for this, but off the top of my head, I don't know what it's going to be. So I do need to get ready to get going. So I'm going to put some thought into this. I'm going to keep working on Tailored Realities to start with, and I'll provide you with an update when I see you next. It is the eve of Christmas Eve, aka December 23rd. I think I'm officially pretty much ready. I still have to wrap gifts for my friends and family, but I just have that to do. I finally picked up the last thing I needed yesterday, so that makes me happy. I need to sort out what I'm doing for the puppy and my dad's dog. So usually for them, I wrap up a toy with a treat, something they can smell, and I put them in a box without a lid and wrap it so they can stick their heads through the wrapping paper, get to it. It's always a highlight of my Christmas. It's going to be an interesting one this year. We've got a storm rolling in tonight, and it looks to be a pretty bad one for us here. They are predicting flooding. They are predicting kind of a mess, and the bulk of it is hitting tomorrow, which I do have to work tomorrow, which is really unfortunate. And then we get another wave of the bad storm on Christmas Day. So I will be taking Kylie with me, but we're kind of going to be probably pretty trapped in the house, I think. So it could be interesting because the dogs don't get along super great. Generally, we just kind of keep them to their separate corners. There's going to be 3 humans, 2 dogs. Hopefully that all works out. So in terms of reading updates, which is really why we're here, I did just now finish up Tailored Realities, and I had a fantastic time with this collection. The new story at the end was a nice long novella to finish off the collection, which I really enjoyed. It involved having 2 people with an interesting dynamic between them, and they wind up being involved in an incident that winds up separating them in time, and it played with kind of time travel in an interesting way and kind of zombie tropes and weird things like that too, all of which I really, really enjoyed. I didn't quite get to finish it last night before I was getting too sleepy to be able to focus, so I did finish it off this morning, not wanting to get up. It is very dark out given the clouds and everything coming in for the storm, so it just kind of made a morning where I wanted to stay in bed. But this is an easy 5-star collection. If I'm being nitpicky, there are a couple stories that didn't as much hold my attention, but the vast bulk of everything in here was a fantastic read. I was hooked to it. I binged through this in just a couple days, which is not my usual with collections like this. So this was a big win. We now have a Kylie, and also my book choice for yesterday's prompt. I needed a TBR vet, something that's been around a while. And I started thinking about things from this year that I kept meaning to get to that have been on my shelf for even longer than this year. And what I came up with is The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. This is a book that has been on multiple kind of polls, multiple spinner wheels, things like that during this year where I almost read it and I didn't. This is an older title. This is an author that I enjoy, so I've picked up a few of her backlist titles over time, and I really want to get to it. Now, I can't find the book. I did not spend the most time looking for it because I valued staying in bed later this morning and not getting up. I could have put more time into looking, but I've pulled it for various things and put it back in different places probably, and I'm sure it's staring me in the face. But in any case, this is the book that I am planning to start because I haven't even started yesterday's book. I am the most behind I've been in this challenge, and that's because I just haven't had the energy for reading quite as much with this whole congestion thing going on. And I spent yesterday with a couple of online things and also editing a video more so than reading at work, but I am still excited to continue on. This one, we are following a young woman widowed by the Vietnam War who hears the horrible news that her unborn baby girl has a heart defect and there's nothing they can do. It's set in 1970, but her brother-in-law, a physicist with a mysterious past, tells her perhaps there's a way to save her baby. So motherhood stories don't always work the absolute best for me, but there's something about this one that has had me really intrigued. The idea of there being something not quite within the bounds of medicine of that era. Kylie wants to jump off my lap and I don't want her to hit the camera, so let's do that. And then we will let Kylie down and then I will pull my next prompt. Yeah, you want to get down? Okay, there you go. Good job. All right, day number 23. Okay, Apparently, I'm being pushed to pick up some older books because this one is also not a TBR vet exactly, but a book that I've owned for over a year, which kind of is the same thing in my mind. So yet again, I don't know what it is I'm going to pick for this. I'm going to get going on my Diane Chamberlain book and then figure this one out. Thinking maybe a book box book that I've had for over a year would be a good place to kind of target, maybe, because I'm staring at those behind the camera right now, but we'll see. Happy Christmas Eve. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it in the background. It's actually calmed down at the moment, but we are having quite the storm going on right now. And it was extremely windy last night. The windows were rattling all night. Kylie got up a couple of times and went outside to bark at the world, so I had to go retrieve her so she wasn't waking up all the neighborhood. And it was just kind of not a restful night. So not looking forward to the commute this morning in the rain, but hopefully that'll go smoothly and we will see how the day progresses. But I wanted to show you my blanket. This is what it looks like as of last night. And I guess I'm kind of a little bit behind technically. I don't know. Last night's pattern had you do a number of rows like normal. And I did get home a little bit late after having dinner with a friend and her family, but it had you do that and finish off and weave in ends and all that. And then it had optional embellishment work, which was to make 18 little balls and 2 really long chains. So I got through the 2 long chains and 3 of the little balls. So that was kind of a lot to do in one evening and I was tired and ready for bed. So I still have a lot more of those to go. I know the plan for this today is to sew on some of the stars we made early on and attach the little balls. They're meant to be berry bunches when you get them done. So that'll be an ongoing process. I don't think I'll be keeping up on Christmas Day tomorrow anyway. So hopefully though, this week I will have finished it. It's not a very big blanket. It's more of a lapgan, I guess you would call it. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with how it's coming out. I know we have to attach things and then I think there's a border that goes around it is basically what's left. And I do have some updates on my reading. I have still not found The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain, the book that I picked for my prompt 2 days ago, but I have finished the book. And overall, I really enjoyed this one. It is hard to classify. It's historical fiction, but also a little bit of sci-fi, but sci-fi in the sense that you don't really get explanations for what has happened. There is a little bit of a parallel with something I read in the Brandon Sanderson story collection, and I think that one explained things more and relied more on what was happening. This one was more about the characters and the choices they were making with the fact that time is involved without getting into too many details. So I really liked it. I thought the whole thought concept of what you would do in different situations was interesting. We are following a woman and she is in 1970. She has just recently learned that her husband was killed in Vietnam, and just before that she found out she was pregnant, and this baby has had her holding on and remembering she has a piece of her husband still with her, but then she gets the news that this baby has a fatal heart defect and there's really nothing that 1970 medicine can do to fix it. And that's when her brother-in-law lets her in on some secrets about himself and his life and some potential options he has to make use of medicine that hasn't been invented yet, and that winds up creating some traumas. There is a 9/11 component going on in here, so that was unexpected to me. There is definitely some kind of choices that our main character has to make in terms of how she deals with her life, and I didn't always necessarily agree with what she chose exactly, but I think in the end she's thinking through her choices and making the choices that are right for her, and I liked that about the story. And I really like Diane Chamberlain's writing a lot, and I'm not the biggest historical fiction fan right at the moment, but she's an author that I trust to do it well and to keep me engaged in the story even though we're in a more historical setting, and that definitely proved true here. So overall, really enjoyed this one. I think I'm giving it a 4.5, probably rounding to 4. It didn't give me complete 5-star feelings, but I really enjoyed my time with this one. And then yesterday's prompt, we had a prompt to read a book that I've owned for over a year, and for that I picked up Growing Things by Paul Tremblay. This is another short story collection. Let's finish off my year of focusing on short stories strong with one more collection. This one is actually on my horror bingo TBR as well from Sarah Wicked Reading, and this one is for a book with a verb in the title, so growing. And overall, I'm having some mixed feelings on this one. I want to say I'm getting close to halfway into it, and some stories I'm really liking how disturbing they are. I definitely am falling into the thing that can very easily happen with short stories where I feel like I want a little bit more than what we get here. And currently the story that I am in is actually a choose your own adventure. So you get to these passages and then you have options for where you want to go. That's not the easiest to navigate on audio, so I may set that one aside to read in print later on, or at least with the print in front of me. It does give instructions for how many tracks to skip ahead if you want to go to this option versus this option. So I think it's done as best it can be in audio, but I think I may read that physically a little bit. So I'm going to continue on with this one, and then we will find out what our prompt for today is. Okay, we have a sci-fi or fantasy novel written by a woman. This was an Around the Year in 52 book reading prompt. So I definitely have plenty of those around to choose from. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to head with it, but I will let you know. It is going to be Christmas when I'm here with you next. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting ready for work. Kylie seems to not be feeling her best right now. I think she's maybe a little weirded out by this storm. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time with her, get my coffee, and get ready to unfortunately go to work. I will figure this out once I need to start a new book and let you know tomorrow where we're at. Merry Christmas morning. By the time you're seeing this, of course, the holiday will be long over, but it is indeed Christmas morning as I am filming this. I had grand plans to put Kylie in a cute little outfit today, and she wore it for like 10 minutes and then she managed to step out of it. And I'd rather her wear a bandana for the day than actually injure herself for the day. So that is the plan. She is mostly stalking my garage currently because she has figured out over time that if she hangs out by the car in my garage, I can't leave the house. She can't be, under the wheels and stuff when I'm going somewhere. She hasn't quite decided to trust that she gets to go with me today, which is fair. She hasn't been in the car with me in quite a while, so I will give her a pass on that. But in any case, I am here to provide you with an update. Today is the final day of our advent calendar. I will not have everything finished by the end of today, so there will be another update, at least one, at some point, but I did want to tell you how far I got with things. Look at that face. I don't have to be at my dad's house until lunchtime, so probably not leaving the house until 12 or 12:30. We are having lobster for dinner, and my dad has to go pick that up, and the seafood place opens at noon. So that makes for a nice casual morning. I've gone through and opened the last of my advent calendars with my yarn. I'm a little sad to see that end, but that's okay. Now I have all sorts of projects to figure out what to do with all the yarn. But while I have been doing that, let's see what we have here. I am nearly done with rowing things, and this one's a bit of a mixed bag. You okay? You want to get down? Are you slipping? My Christmas PJs are a little bit slippery for her, I think. I have nearly finished this. I'm on the last, I think, 2 stories. You can get down safely. Oh, you just wanted to turn around? Okay. And overall, this has had some highs, some stories I really enjoyed, some not so much. I thought the Choose Your Own Adventure story was a really interesting approach. It wound up being very easy to just kind of listen to the chapters in order instead of skipping around a lot to hit the majority of the story. If you skip around a lot, it looped back to previous chapters anyway. So I was fine doing that in the car yesterday. I enjoyed that one. There's one with a bunch of dog walkers leaving notes about the walks they took with the dog, whether the dog peed or pooped, but then also going off on tangents and talking about life and talking about writing and almost kind of like at least being a little crazy, meta discussion about writing and short stories and whether horror authors need to put out short story collections like this one and what it means for their career and so forth. So there have been some wins in here. Others just haven't made a dent. Kylie has found her monster again. So anyway, that's where we're at with this one. This one I should have finished today, if not this morning. I took Monster away and now she's back in my lap. Anyway, for yesterday's prompt, we needed sci-fi fantasy written by a woman. And I realized that the one book that I haven't finished from my prompt called TBR, which probably would have been okay because I did fulfill the prompt with a different book, but it's an arc I wanted to get to anyway. And that is The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. This is a gifted copy I have from Tor. I have the audiobook from Macmillan Audio. And I did make it about 46% of the way, nearly halfway into this yesterday. With this book, we are following a young woman. I believe she's 16 at the start of this, and she lives in a region that is very impoverished. They are starving. The little boys in the family get more food than the girls. She's lost a sister. Her mother gave birth to a sister who didn't survive, and I think there may have been others, and it's just been a struggle. Her mother's kind of taught her if she can marry a man from the city, eventually that will help her family out and maybe get enough so she could send back money for food or send food or whatever. And this is kind of the mentality she's been trained with. She also absolutely adores her younger brother and sacrifices a lot for him on her own as well. When the emperor names one of his sons as his successor, the emperor's sick. He's apparently named one of his sons to take over for him. And it's kind of a surprise to people because the son in question is not known to be a good guy. And there's definitely some things going on that level. But one of the things that anyone in charge needs is a full complement of concubines. And they go around kind of auditioning basically young women to become a concubine to the emperor. And Wei Yin is someone who goes, she doesn't quite pass muster. She's not pretty enough, but she kind of begs her way in. She acknowledges she's imperfect, but she wants a chance anyway, and they let her go. As it turns out, the emperor-to-be is very much not a good guy. He's drinking a lot. He's cruel to women. He uses his power to kill people who bother him. It's just kind of not a great thing. But in the course of things, she gets named as the Empress in Waiting, basically, and suddenly she has power to an extent. This is a world where women aren't allowed to be literate, and this is at least partially because in this world, you cast magic through poetry, you write poetry, and you enact it. And this is something that obviously we don't want women to have because that would give them far too much power, and therefore they're meant to be illiterate. But our main character is not taking things laying down. She is going to learn to speak. She's going to watch her future husband do his magic and learn from that and learn how to do it herself and gather information. And the synopsis on the back says her goal is to kill her husband. And that's kind of where we're at with the story currently. And I'm really enjoying it. I think the world is interesting, the way of writing poetry as magic and how someone has to have good literacy in order to be powerful, I think is a really interesting take. I like our main character. I like that she thinks on her feet and that she's willing to sacrifice for those she loves, but also see people just around her in need and help empower them as well. So I'm going to continue on with this one, but my Christmas tree advent calendar has one more prompt for me. So let's find out what the Christmas Day prompt is going to be. Okay, can you get down so you don't fall? Thank you. Okay, the final spot of the calendar gives us a fairy tale retelling. I definitely have some of those I need to get to, I'm sure. I don't know what they're going to be, but I'll put some thought into that and figure that out and let you know once I know. And first though, coffee and hanging out with the puppy for a little bit before we take off to my dad's house. I'm back. Christmas is well over at this point. Been a couple days. It's actually Sunday because I was too lazy to film yesterday. But as of yesterday, I did indeed finish up my Advent reading. Christmas itself was a fun day. Hung out with Kylie and my dad's dog, my dad and my sister. Dogs, of course, always come first because they got absolutely spoiled. And it was a lot of fun getting to watch them open gifts, play with new toys. I got Kylie a electric turtle that she still isn't sure if she's thankful for or really hates me for. It scares her a little bit, so we'll see how that goes. That might become my dad's dog's toy because she loved it. And really, I did no filming on Christmas aside from the fact that I did get Kylie's reaction to our dinner because we had lobster for dinner, and this is not her first time seeing live lobster, but she still doesn't think necessarily they're a lot of fun. Our first actual family function after I got Kylie, she was still wearing her cone at the time because she had been spayed right before I brought her home. And that was a Mother's Day where we had lobster for dinner, or yeah, it must have been dinner. But that one, she barked at the lobster. This time she didn't bark, but she certainly didn't want my dad getting it too close to her. So it was a fun experience nonetheless. Anyway, I didn't get much reading done on Christmas, or really anything practical done on Christmas, as one is supposed to. So I picked up my reading the next day, had a good couple of lazy days, and got all through my Advent reading. So to provide you with some final updates, first of all, I did find The Dream Daughter, and it was indeed staring at me from the shelf. In my head, I think I was thinking of this being a paperback, and so I was looking for a paperback on my shelf. I'm pretty sure I actually got a paperback copy of this from something else, and so I owned both of them, and that's why in my head this was paperback. Or I originally owned it on paperback and I got this one from another box. I don't know. In any case, I did find it. You've already heard me talk about it, but just wanted to say it was located. And then I did finish up The Poet Empress, and overall I really enjoyed this one. I kind of thought going into this we were going to get a little bit more romance out of it, and it really isn't that. It's really about the politics, about women's rights, about the magic system and women's involvement with that. Our our Empress character, or to-be Empress character in here, really takes on a lot, learns a lot, and with all of that, she has a lot of power that she gains, and I really appreciated that part of the story. There were a few places where it lost my attention just a little bit, but in all reality, that could have been the holidays and just busyness this week and so forth. But overall, this was an extremely strong 4-star for me, even verging on 4.5 maybe, but I had a great time with this one. And my final prompt was to read a retelling, and that had me really looking through my shelves. It wasn't one that immediately brought a book to mind, but since my last couple of prompts have had me doing a lot of diving into kind of my TBR backlist, my oldest books on my TBR, I decided to kind of go that direction with this one, and I picked up The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. And this is book 1 in a series, in theory, the books of Bayron, and with that, I do think this was a complete enough story that I am going to count it as a standalone. I looked at the characters for book 2, and it seems like each one maybe is like a distinct, its own story, but this is a retelling, or at least based on the story of the Goose Girl from Hans Christian Andersen, and it was entertaining. I wouldn't say it wowed me. I think it told a good story. I think she did creative things with language in here. Our young heroine in here is a princess. She is the heir to the crown, basically, in her family, as things are when they start off, but she also has a special ability to be able to talk to animals, or in particular swans. At the beginning of this book, she then has a horse that she can communicate with, and through many trials and tribulations, she winds up working with geese in the story, hence the title. So with that, I thought it was really interesting, the idea of animals having different languages and how she was able to interact with them or not in certain situations. And there are hidden identities, there's twists to her story that she didn't expect, and overall I found this entertaining. It was a 3-star read for me, not exactly ending this vlog, this Advent experience, up on a high note, but it still is a book that I've been needing to get to, that's been on my TBR for quite a while. This was gifted to me and I needed to get to it. So with that, I did manage to read my 25 books for 25 prompts in 26.5 days, which is not that bad. Years past, I've definitely fallen further behind on this objective, so I think I feel pretty good with how this went. I got to a good variety of books. I got to some books I really enjoyed. I got to some that didn't work quite as well, but they cleared them off my TBR, and that's always a good thing as well. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know anything about how your holidays have been, or your thoughts on any of these books or these prompts. What books would you have chosen for any of them? And since this vlog is meant to go up on New Year's Eve, let me know what you are going to be starting the next year reading. To be honest, I haven't figured that out yet, but I've still got a few days where I'll be editing this and thinking about it. And if you've made it this far and just want to let me know you were here but don't have anything to comment, leave me some sort of bird emoji for the Goose Girl. If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in more of my reading challenges, more of my book reviews, and more of my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll leave you here. Wish you a very happy new year, and see you real soon in a new video.